Hey guys, William Merva here, and in today's episode I'm going to be doing an oil and filter change to my wife's Renault Megane Mk3. Okay, so it's pretty basic setup. This is a 1.5 DCI. It's a diesel engine, as you can probably tell by the noise of it. So I'm going to be doing an oil and filter change. I'm just running the engine up to temperature to make sure it's nice and warm, so all the oil is nice and sort of more thin, so it can run out the jump plug relatively easy. I have some parts down here. So I've got an oil filter, a Bosch oil filter, a Crossland air filter, and I've also got some oil, which is 5W40. It's a fully synthetic oil, and it's designed specifically for diesels. So as I say, once the car's run up to temperature, I'm going to jack the front of the car up. I'm going to put some chocks under the wheels to make sure it's not going to roll anywhere and support it. I need to get underneath the car. I need to remove the under tray and then drain the fluids out. When the fluids are being drained, I can get over here and change the air filter. And yeah, it should be a pretty straightforward job. The service light has been on for a while, so it's long overdue. So this is the first service I've done as owner of this vehicle. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so the engine is now run up to temperature. The car's jacked up in the air and it's supported by axle stands. I'm going to get underneath and remove the tray from underneath. There's 10mm sockets, 10mm bolts scattered around the under tray. Okay, so before I go underneath the car, I wanted to release the dipstick, and I also want to release the cap to remove any pressure that's in that system. I can just place that back on and go underneath the car now and do what I've got to do. So with the under tray now sort of off, it gives me access down to the bottom of the gearbox, or the sump, which is just here. And I can remove that sump plug. So to remove the sump plug, so you can use a special tool like this, which is an 8mm square nutted sump plug tool. That's $4.99 from Halfords. Or you can get a kit like this, which has got multiple sizes in it. So I want to get my container under my sump plug. So while the oil is draining, I can focus my attention to down here where the oil filter is. I'm going to leave that for now because I want to make sure enough oil is drained out, and I can move the bucket underneath. So I'm going to turn my attention to the air filter setup. have the air filter. So the old filter itself is dirty. I don't know how long it's been in there. It's been before we bought the car. New filter. Just need to make sure that it's same size. It matches up, which it does. And you can see the differences from the side compared to the side of this one. Just plonk that in there. And we can slide it back in that box. Next up, oil filter, which is down here. So I was slightly off, I thought it was down here. The oil filter is actually down here. You can probably see the blue housing. Just down here. So I need to get my hand down through these pipes and twist that filter off. That's tight. So I've got this special tool. Now this is an oil filter wrench. What it does, as you rotate it, it clamps down and then it twists the oil filter free. So, old filter is now off. Let's get it changed with this new one. Okay, so with the new filter, I've got a bit of oil on my finger here. I'm just going to lubricate that seal. Just put a little bit on the thread as well, make it easier to screw on. So, that's it. Screw that into place. So with that new oil filter in place, which you can probably just see on the end, just going to nip it up. So you want to just get a grip of it and just twist it until it goes tight. You don't want to do it up too tight. Once you get to that bit where you have quite a lot of resistance by hand, and you could probably turn a bit more, but you just, yeah, that's about where you want it to be. So not too tight, but tight enough that it's not going to come loose. So the sump plug has an old washer on it, so I've taken the old washer off. So I've given it a new copper washer, and that can now go back into the sump. Alright, there we have the old oil, all drained out, that we disposed of properly at our local recycling centre. So, the tray's on, the oil's plugs back in, and get the car off the axle stands now and top the oil from the top. So what I'm going to do is put about 90% of the oil capacity, which in this car is 4.8 litres, and then I'm going to turn the engine on, I'm going to run it up, let that oil circulate round, let it settle. Now it's on the ground, it will settle flat as well. I'm going to dip the oil to check the level and then top it up accordingly. Okay, let's go start this engine up. So, just gonna let the oil settle for a second. It might smoke a little bit because I have spilt a little bit of oil around the front here. I need to get a more steady hand. This dipstick here in particular, let's put it over here. You can see the hash section on it. So the bottom of the hash is the minimum, the top of the hash is the maximum. Out. So you can see the oil now is on that minimum hash. Put a bit more in. So expecting to have about 0.2 of a litre left of this, which is pretty hard to gauge, but it should just be just when the level's on the max. And again, it's working the way up. I'm nearly at the maximum now. Just a tiny little squirt more. I'll just double check. Because you've got to take into account the oil's going to come from the top and it's going to drift down to the bottom. Okay, yeah, a little bit more. So it'll take a few minutes, well, a few seconds really to get down there. So there we have it now. That is on the maximum, which is fantastic. Trying to clean up some of that oil I've spilled. Put the cap back on. And that is the service nearly complete. So put the bonnet back down now. The last step of this journey to do the service is to reset the service light. So put my key in the ignition light should come on. Now I don't have any feet on any pedals down the bottom here, and I want to go and see that sign that says service required. So using my menu selectors, I'm going to go through until that orange light flashes up. It says service. Okay, and there it is. You can see. So let's see if I can get both of these focused in. Probably won't be able to. So holding the bottom of the two buttons here, I'm going to press and hold that, and then we should see the service required flash. And there we have it. Service light is reset. Another 18,000 miles or 2 years, whichever comes first. And that is the service light reset. So just take my key out of the ignition, turn the ignition off, back in. Let's start that car up. It should hopefully say OK. And I can now filter through that menu. Service in 18,000 miles. Right, so I'm going to just take this car for a quick road test just to make sure everything is nice and smooth and no leaks, bangs, knocks, etc. And then park it up for the evening, and that is the service done. If you have enjoyed this content and you found it beneficial, or that you've learned something from it, or you just use it as a reference, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you. While you're there, please click that thumbs up button, and if you can, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss on any future content. I've got some really cool builds coming up, some classic stuff, some modern stuff, so yeah, stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.